Stewart Fulton here in Japan, sending you the best news, reviews, previews, interviews, all the views from the land of the rising sun, pro wrestling, pro grappling, kickboxing, mixed martial arts, and especially a focus on those who are responsible for releasing the Kraken. This is Kraken Chronicles. Stewart Fulton here in Japan, and today's guest is another fellow Scotsman. He's a mixed martial arts fighter with a record of 11-1 at the moment, now 2-0 in the UFC. Chris made a statement to the whole world with a knockout victory in Contender Series 2022, where he well and truly released the Kraken and scored a UFC contract. Welcome to Kraken Chronicles, Chris.
Nice to see you again, Stu.
You've just been training today, How did it go?
Yeah, it was good. I had a few drinks at the weekend, so today was just getting over it and getting it done. So I was out with my friends, the first time I've been out in about 6 months, so it was good to catch up with all them and catch up with some lost time.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't realise, right? You know, you have to put everything on the back burner, social life, friends and all that kind of stuff. And you know, your good friends will understand, but that's just something that comes with it, right?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. There's no there's no in between. There's all in or all out. So it was good to catch up with the boys and have a laugh.
100%. Now, how are you feeling after your last win at UFC Fight Night? How was it fighting on a UFC card in the UK and getting the win?
So this time around, it was far easier. There was a lot of pressure on me on the first one, on my debut. But this time, you know, we went in there and everything was the same. I went to American Top Team once again. I came back to the same venue, the same hotel, all the same things. So this time around, it was like second nature. And then as my fights progress now, you know, I'm going to start getting more used to it. So this is just a kind of a baseline that you didn't see the full version of me, and I know I'm better than that, and I know I can finish guys. So that'll be the next goal.
That's superb, man. It's great to see everything went well for you. Briefly, talk to us about your journey into MMA. I knew you before your professional debut, of course. You have an extensive amateur background. Where and how did it all start?
Back in 2014, I used to work as a farmer, obviously, and I was kind of stuck. I wouldn't call it a dead-end job, but I would call it a lifestyle. And then what happened was the day of the weigh-ins for my first ever MMA fight, when I took an amateur fight, my mum passed away. So after that, there was like an epiphany, if you like. It was something I just wanted to do, because life can be ripped away from you in an instant. So realizing that life isn't always about work and about being just a hard worker and making money, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something that I actually like. So I moved into the gym, started working as a personal trainer, and then obviously I was good at fighting, so that snowballed into where I'm at just now. But the main reason why I do all this is probably because of my mum. Out of something bad always comes something good. That's a really good way to look at that positive spin on things, and it does so much for athletes like yourself, but you know, everybody in all walks of life. It's something that everybody can relate to. Absolutely. You need to suffer a little bit to get something good. Fully. Take us briefly through the Contender Series 2021 fight, the only loss on your record. Well, there's a big long-winded story that comes behind this, but I'll try and chop it up nice and fast for you. But COVID was a massive part of this as well. It was the only promotion I was able to get a fight on. I previously fought in Bellator, but I was managed to get a release from there. When I got my release, we decided to go to the Contender Series because the UFC were the only sporting organisation that was actually working at the time. So we went for the Contender Series. I got there, I made weight, and my opponent didn't make weight. So that fight was going to go ahead until my opponent then pulled out the following day. So I had made weight at 70 kilos and then got myself all the way back up to 81 kilos, whatever it was. The guy pulled out and he said, right, we might get you a fight on Saturday, but if we get a fight on Saturday, we're just going to sign you straight away because that's going to be the UFC. So I said, let's do it. So I started to make weight again. I started to water load, I started all these things. I was about to walk into the sauna and start to cut weight. And I phoned my manager. I was like, right, am I going to do this? Have I got an opponent? He was like, nah, we don't have anybody, mate. I'm sorry. So I said, right, can I go and eat? And he's like, yeah, you're going to eat. We're going to get you on a flight home tomorrow. So I was like, cool. So I went away, In-N-Out burger, crisps, sweets, you know the score. Then I was waiting for a phone call in the morning from my manager. He phoned, he goes, hi mate, I've got good news and I've got bad news. So he said, we've got your fight in 10 days time. We've got a new opponent. So obviously me being the stupid guy that I am, I decided to make weight for the third time. And massive detriment to my mindset and also my performance. Going into that fight, I felt great. I had no excuses, but when I got in there, my legs felt like lead. I was heavy, I was slow. And obviously I lost, but it was genuinely the best thing. I mean, we just talked about this before. Out of something bad always comes something good. So I realised I wasn't made of granite. I realised I wasn't unstoppable. I realised that anybody can shut your lights off at any time. So I went back to the drawing board. I fixed a lot of things personally, mentally, physically. And after that, I got my second shot in the UFC. But the second shot only came because of what I'd done previously. So after I lost, I remember Sean Shelby and Dana White came through the back and were like, listen, we really appreciate what you've done to try and get yourself a shot. All we want you to do is go away and get another win, and then we'll have you back on the show. So I did my due diligence. I left. I went home. Had some time off, obviously, because I suffered a concussion. But as soon as I got another fight, they were true to their word, and I went back. And here we are today after a massive knockout from Charlie Campbell. Because call it favoritism, but I think my knockout with Charlie Campbell was the best knockout in Dana White's Contender Series ever. Because like, such a good comeback, and I put the guy out. I put him out flatline. So here we are today.
You're right. I mean, there's a case that some refs might have stopped it at some point. You know, maybe not in the UFC, but in other organisations, that easily an early stoppage could have happened there. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, man. Here on Kraken Chronicles, we highlight combat sports athletes who possess that rare ability to dig deep and to summon the inner warrior. Chris, you clearly did that in your second Contender Series match last year. When you were in trouble early on, you got rocked, but you came back to win in phenomenal fashion. First, take us through that fight. How do you prepare physically and mentally for those make or break situations? A lot of people can't imagine that.
You can't train that. That's either here or it's not. It's something you can't show somebody. You can train jiu-jitsu, you can train striking, you can train grappling, you can train wrestling, but you can't train your heart. You've either got that or you've not. And you've been brought up through. So like I always remember like Custamato and Mike Tyson used to always say, like, you can't teach that because that's something that's within you. That's primal. That's something that's been brought up through hardship and brought up through tough times in your life. So that's not something I train. I don't go out my way to train that. And thinking on the spot maybe, but I knew when he'd rocked me that I needed to try and get respect back, because in my head I wanted to make sure it was an absolute clinic, and it was getting to the stage that it could have been stopped at that point. So I thought to myself, right, I need to get a bit of respect here. So I just put everything into my 1-2, and obviously instead of getting respect, he got a left, right, good night, and that was him.
Superb. I do see where you're coming from. It is a primal thing. It's innate. It's not something you can read a book and learn, and it's not something you can train in the gym. But is there a psychology that you talk about with sparring partners, or specifically coaches, that help you to prepare for those situations?
Not particularly. I think obviously MMA is a very big mental game. I've always been a wee bit cutthroat when it comes to like different things in my life, and I feel that now that I've had that knockout in my career and I've had some ups and downs, nothing really changes outside of fighting. there's this mystique about having this 7-0 or 8-0 or whatever. There's this big mystique. And once I realised that I lost that, like nothing changed outside my life or nothing changed inside my life. So a man that's got nothing to lose is a dangerous man. So I have nothing to lose now. I just go out there and do my best. And if I get beaten, good on him. It's almost that samurai way, like live by the sword, die by the sword. It's just that kind of mentality, and that's why I have that tattoo on my back.
So you don't really think too deeply into it in terms of the psychology of it. It's very one way, very clear for you.
Yeah, of course. I think if you start deviling too deep within it, you end up crossing wires and getting mixed up. Anybody can be beaten on any given day, and everybody has the fear of losing. So why put that negativity on yourself when you don't have to be? You know, it's silly. There's no point being nervous until you actually get into the fight. So it's pointless.
So the overthinking things is really the undoing of a lot of fighters, would you say?
Oh, for sure. It clouds their judgment.
Mm-hmm. So how about in the moment? Can you tell us what goes through your mind when you get clipped like that? And more than once.
I said to myself,
have to fight through it.
When I was in there, I remember trying to grab for a single leg against the fence. I thought, fuck, don't let this happen again. Don't let this happen again. That's what I actually thought in my head. But I remember putting my hand on the fence and then just hitting them with a 1-2, and then that was it, game over.
A lot of fighters in those types of fights, especially first round finishes, when somebody gets rocked, they come out of the fight and they can't quite remember everything. They say they have to watch the replay to really break it down and process it. Was it like that for you?
No, definitely. I knew everything was going on. I was rocked, but I wasn't out on my feet. He was just hitting me with some heavy shots, and I remember every second of it. I remember absolutely everything. It feels like a bit of a dream now, but that's part of fighting. You know, if anybody's had a fight before, they realise it feels almost supernatural, or like doesn't feel like it was a real thing.
August the 2nd, 2022 against Charlie Campbell. If anybody out there hasn't seen it, go and watch it. You will not be disappointed. Now, other than us both being Scottish and Chris being on the show today because of your ability to unleash the beast, some of the viewers might be wondering what your connection to Japan is here. Me being out here, you being over there, and basically our hometowns very, very similar, is one of the connections. But just before the pandemic, you almost got a fight out here in Japan, in Pancras, right?
For sure, yeah. We between you and me, we were chatting. My manager, and I got some sponsorship funded to try and come over and fight in Pankhurst. So that was going to be a massive, massive fight, and I was looking forward to it. But unfortunately, my opponent got injured. So Japan is one of the cities I want to visit at some point. So hopefully in the future we come across and we get a ramen together.
Aye, for sure. It's been quite interesting to see how you and your supposed opponent at the time, Masayuki Kikuiri, at welterweight that was set for. He went on to fight in Bellator. He made his debut at Bellator 295 with a knockout win in April. You fought in Bellator, then you went off to the UFC. So it's quite interesting how both of your careers almost collided, but went off in similar directions.
Lucky for him.
I was stoked, man. I was really looking forward to that. I was gutted when it fell through because, me on commentary and you fighting in Japan, two Scots, that would have been a never seen or done before. That would have been something else.
Definitely, and I would have loved to have come across.
Aye. Well, maybe sometime in the future.
Of course.
Moving on. Has becoming a father changed you as a person or a fighter? What's the psychology there? I don't have much of a career to speak of in MMA and retired years ago now, but I did fight as a non-father and then as a father. So I know the feeling, I know the difference. Can you shed some light on that?
Nothing specifically has changed, but definitely the incentive has changed. You know, money's a massive thing now. Obviously, when you have kids, they pull the plug on it. Put it that way. So financial support from the UFC has been a massive thing. So I fight for her. It makes me a little bit more emotionally invested. She makes me cry a lot more than I should. Sometimes she just melts my heart. It's just, I can't help it. She says things like, she was telling me the other day, we were in the soft play, and she's like, come on, Dad, come on, Dad. It's just like silly things like that just make you realise how special and how close I hold her to my heart. So nothing specifically changed, but the incentive to fight has changed. Oh, look, just on cue. Hello.
A cameo.
Want to come see? Come see the man. In a wave.
Oh, hello there.
Wave. Say hello. Yeah, so she's changed my life massively and dramatically in two different ways. So for the greater good, for sure.
That's superb, man. So are you going to be causing problems this autumn, winter, October, November? What's next?
We're looking to get matched up maybe November, December time. That would be great timing. I'd like to get one as soon as possible. I just need to wait and hear what my manager says. I'm always training, as you well know. I'm always learning, and say for instance, you know, like I'm not focusing on winning all the time. Sometimes I put myself in really bad positions just to try and learn. I think that's the biggest change that I've made to my game in the last 6 months, is like, you don't always need to win the rounds. So learning new skills and upskilling. It doesn't even need to be physical either. Maybe it's stretching or doing yoga or cold plunge or something. So that's a massive thing for me going forward, is just upskilling, because people get stuck in the trenches.
Yeah, it's very easy to, you're right, get stuck in the trenches. It's comfortable just to stay in the same routine, and you know, you do hard training sessions, but if you're not looking at it from the outside, you might not be challenging yourself as much as you can. Like you said, different skills, different aspects to the game, and there's that old adage, you know, being comfortable with feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, because everybody wants to win and nobody likes to lose. So I'm quite happy to lose a couple of rounds in the gym so I can win under the bright lights of the UFC. So it's hard to do that though. It takes the ego right out of it.
Easy to say, but not so easy to do for everybody, right?
For sure, mate, for sure.
So if rankings didn't matter and you could fight anyone you wanted next, who would it be?
So I've been trying to get a fight with a guy called Trevor Peake or Jordan Levitt, but Jordan Levitt now has a match, so he's kind of off the cards. I always wanted to fight Donald Cerrone because he was my idol. He's the guy that got me interested in it. I remember watching him on Spike TV when the WEC was up, so that would always be a nice one. So maybe now that the tables have turned and my new idol would maybe be Justin Gaethje. He's my new favourite fighter in the current rankings of the UFC. So, yeah, there's a lot of potentials and a lot of cool guys I'd like to step in front of.
You've just opened up a huge amount of doors. The first one being the UFC, but after that, you know, all of the best guys in the world out there. And I'm sure, guys, you've been watching for a while now. It must be super exciting for you.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a massive pool of fighters, different styles, different threats. You know, it's the best company in the world. You can't compare with it.
Just before we wrap things up, how can people get a hold of you on social media, Chris?
So my Instagram profile is theproblem_155. You can catch me on there. Twitter, I think, is just theproblem155. And that's about it. I don't really have anything else. You don't want to see my TikTok. It's just full of kids and things messing around. So it's you don't want to follow me on there. But
have you still got merch?
Yes, I've got my fanboy merch. So thank you for buying that shirt. I remember when you bought it. I appreciate that. That's I'm sure you guys will stick the link in below. Fanboy that helps support the fighter, and it helps me prepare for obviously fight camps that are coming up, because they're not cheap. So if you can support me by buying a t-shirt, there's a percentage of that goes to me, and it really helps me like obviously fund my camps and give back to obviously my fans and the supporters.
Sure. Yep, so everybody get out there on Chris's social media, hit him up, give him a follow, check out his stuff. And Chris, I really like to thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And I'm seriously, and I'm not the only one here, looking forward to seeing you releasing the Kraken and causing enough problems for everybody out there the end of this year and into the future.
I'm looking forward to my next match as well. It's going to be a promising 50k this time.
Magic. Thank you very much, Chris. The Problem Duncan.